Yeah, you're wearing an Octa Finissima. Fantastic. Which one are you wearing?
The titanium one.
Nice watch, isn't it?
Yeah, it's good for the lockdown period. But it was impossible to go to the safe bank, and I have this watch in at home.
Fantastic. I love how you're also collecting some of the contemporary stuff as well, you know, and I like that.
Yeah, I love the contemporary. The problem is sometimes the price, but I love a few contemporary watches.
Very nice. And I have to say, I want to thank you.
Design.
Okay. What are some of your favorite designs recently?
Oh, the Octo is well done, and also I love his whole design, but I love the Royal Oak in white gold with the gold dial.
Oh, nice. Yes.
Remember this year in Geneva, and also I love the perpetual with the ceramic black or white material.
This is great.
It's not bad. And also I love a few Richard Mille, but you know Richard Mille is another planet for my pocket.
I remember there's a very beautiful photograph of you in the Rake magazine. I think you're wearing a Ralph Lauren Slim Classic.
Yeah, there's another watch I like. It's with a good retro style design.
Yeah, it's a very nice watch. I like the little square one that he made with the full guilloche on the dial bezel.
Yeah. They make good job, and especially with the guilloche on the case, the guilloche on the dial. The movement is good, flat by Piaget, and it's good.
And Auro, how are you? It's great to see you. I remember so many fun times spending wonderful moments in your kitchen, drinking Negronis with you in New York. And I look forward to when we can enjoy these times again, my friend.
Good. Right now, are you in Singapore?
I'm in Singapore. Yeah, I was.
Did you miss a little bit the traveling?
You know, I like yourself. I'm usually traveling all the time, so it's a very strange moment for me to be in one place for so long. It's, you know, in some ways it's been great because we've been very productive. I got a lot of writing done, and also thank you so much for your help with the Paddock chronograph story. It's wonderful.
Yeah, you make a great article, excellent and brilliant with a long story.
Oh no, cheers, thank you, and also thank you. I mean, without your images and without your help, it would not have been possible. So thank you so much, my friend. And so tell me a little bit about the new project. I know I'd seen some images and some of the copy from this earlier in the year.
Yesterday, the fresh copy from the printing company.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah, it's already done, and next week is ready for shipping around the world to the distributor.
Amazing. And I love how the book is kind of, it's born out of a friendship with someone that you've known for over 40 years. So did you guys grow up together? Did you and Cesare Maria Manucci grow up together?
Yeah, he's a good friend of mine, a long-time friend. We already knew each other about 40 years. And we decided last year to build this kind of project.
Incredible. And he was from an early age very passionate about
like you.
Cars and auto racing, right? And from an early age, he was mentioning in the preface or the introduction how he was very impressed with how you were going to the flea market and finding some incredible vintage watches, which at the time were a little bit easier to purchase.
Well, it was a great time because it was the price was available for my pockets, and it was easy to find many pieces on the market. But you know, 40 years ago, without knowledge, without books, without any information from the house, it was very difficult to find the right wristwatches.
I think it's interesting that you guys have both become experts in your individual fields. I know Mr. Manucci has gone on to be a well-known journalist at Auto Sprint magazine. He's covered all the F1s, all the GP races. Became friends, and with a lot of the pilots that were his heroes. And has become an expert on that culture. At the same time, you, Auro, are probably the most revered and beloved watch collector in the world. Not only for your incredible taste.
You make a good mix. He wrote a great story about the characters, and I tried to write to some interesting footnotes on watches.
And I love it also because you're kind of uniting two things that men love, or people love in general,
Yeah.
you know. And it's interesting also because I think you've selected one female pilot or a race driver for us to discuss today from your book. But I guess for guys, you know, the two things that okay, there's one third thing, but you know, we can discuss this some other time, maybe with a Negroni. But the two things that we love are cars, the culture of automobiles, in particular vintage automobiles and automobiles with great racing pedigree, and also watches and the history of watches, especially chronographs and timing devices, which have an intrinsic link with the culture
Also,
of racing.
you know, the car and the watches, cars and watches were the most important industrial product of the past century. And the story of the car racing is very interesting from the beginning to now. Now is less exciting, but you know.
I love the synergy between the two. You know, I love the fact that a lot of the advancement and of chronographs that we see, you know, one of the watches that we talk about in the article that we just did was the reference 130 from Patek, which was created in 1934. And I think this is a really cool period because you have the proliferation of auto racing, a lot of famous gentleman drivers, and you know, these watches, these chronographs were genuinely used as important fundamental tools.
The real tool watches.
Precisely. So maybe let's start with a watch that I know is very special to you and with an individual that I think was really cool. And this is Stefano La Motta, or I guess the Baron Stefano La Motta, who was a wealthy nobleman from Sicily.
The Baron La Motta was the classic gentleman driver. And I found the photo with is wearing the split second by Rolex, and his watch was on sale almost 25 years ago in a Geneva auction, and it's showing the bottom left side. Unfortunately, the dial is redone. I put another example with the right dial, with the right details.
Well, Auro, I mean, this is a very famous watch. So it's amazing that Baron La Motta was clearly not only just an amazing gentleman driver, an extraordinary sort of individual from a style perspective, but he was also had incredible taste in watches. And so the watch that he selected was the famous Rolex 4113, the split-second chronograph of Rolex. I think the largest chronograph that Rolex ever made.
Yeah, and also Rolex manufactured only 12 examples in the 43.
And of the 4113, what I find amazing is that only 12 examples, I believe 3 of them, the whereabouts are unknown. Of the remaining 9 watches, we see one of them on the bottom here, which is obviously Count La Motta's watch. And as you were mentioning, the dial has been redone, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And you're showing us also on top, the top watch, which is got the correct dial. Now, can I ask you, Auro, is this your watch?
No, it's not my watch. It came from a very important collection from South Far East, and this watch was found in Sicily almost 15 years ago.
Amazing. But you are one of the 9 owners in the world of a 4113.
Yeah,
correct?
yeah. I have another example, but this is for me the best example on the market.
Tell me from the perspective of a race car driver, you know, in the 1930s and 40s, why this watch would be such a great tool while you were driving.
Yeah, because it was a big size. They were on the wrist, over the jacket, over the shirt, and can measure the times in perfect way with the split-second mechanism.
I guess the split-second mechanism was particularly useful for elapsed times, for like a lap, for example. And what is because I remember there's this very famous video of you opening the back of your 4113 with a cheese knife. Tell us a little bit about the movement of this watch and about the history of this model, because I think that Rolex only made this watch specifically for race car drivers, correct?
Who knows? Because for me, was a special order from Italian military army in the 42, 43. But it was the Second World War, and Rolex didn't consign the watches in Italy. And after the war, they tried to sell the watch to the drivers, to the Targa Florio, Mille Miglia, because the source of this kind of watch are always from Sicily, Italy, or England.
Wow, that's fascinating.
Yeah.
I never realized that they were specifically found in these markets. So, Auro, I know that I'd asked you to...
Regarding the movement, the classic Valjoux 55. If you compare the other watches with this kind of movement, like Minerva, Capt, Universal Cairelli, is completely different by finishing. Is very flat compared to the other one, very light. If you see the case, is very thin. Rolex make great job on this kind of watch.
That's amazing. Really cool. How does it compare in terms of a movement relative to the split-second watches that were made using the caliber 13-130 as a base that we saw in the 1463, or sorry, 1436 and the 1563?
You compare this kind of movement with the Patek movement?
Yes.
You know, okay, the Patek movement is our much better finishing. It is smaller and very similar, but you know, Patek is much better quality.
So for them, finishing was important because it was for a gentleman's watch, and these were meant to be watches for drivers as a tool watch, as you were saying.
Yeah, you know, Patek Philippe in that period was the best company in the war for quality watches. Was no comparison with the others company.
It's still pretty good, Auro. I know we love Patek.
Yeah.
On the subject of Patek,
in that period.
On the subject of Patek, on the subject of chronographs, on the subject of drivers, let's transition to the legendary Count Strozzi, because I love the fact that he is very famous both as someone related to cars, and he created this legendary SSK Mercedes.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Now, this is a very custom-made watch by Patek for Count Strozzi. It's a unique watch. Was found in Italy and was sold, I think, 15 years ago, 12 years ago, in a Sotheby Geneva auction for an incredible price. We found the Ferrari magazine with the Count Strozzi depicting in the cover of this watch.
That's so cool. And if I'm not mistaken, this was a huge watch, right? This was a 46 mm watch.
Yeah.
Incredible. And it's a monopusher chronograph, and the mechanism on the top, is this just to lock the mechanism from functioning?
Yeah, the provenance comes from the pocket watch with the Victorine Piguet mechanism to convert to wrist.
I think what's really beautiful that I've always loved about the Victorine Piguet movements is how the individual bridges are so beautifully executed, you know?
Yeah, you see the leverage is well finished and the details are great.
And I love how that you have these individual bridges for each of the wheels in the chrono train as well. You know, it's so beautiful. I think it's probably the most beautiful movement for me, at least, for chronographs. So cool. Okay, so let's go from here to a very interesting individual, because I think traditionally we always think of drivers as being male, but actually you selected and you covered in the book. And how many drivers did you cover? Because it's a huge
almost 90 characters.
90 characters, including even some of the legends like Paul Newman, for example, but you've picked some. It's Steve McQueen, yes, of course. But you picked some very interesting ones for us today as well, and I love the fact that you covered a female driver as well. So maybe tell us a little bit about this interesting individual, Leanne Engemann.
Yeah, Leanne Engemann was a very nice woman, and she was a driver. Yes. And we found, with the help of a collector, Italian collector, these photos wearing the chronograph by Tissot. And the collector tried to reproduce the same cuff bracelet of Engelmann. You see the photos?
I do. Yeah, it's really
the
cool.
bracelet with the 2 buttons. This kind of bracelet was very popular in the 60s, like the Paul Newman, where with the cuff bracelet and
I have to say, Auro, that the first thing I noticed is, and forgive me because, you know, I couldn't help but notice that Leanne Engman is incredibly good looking. She's very, very beautiful.
Yeah, very good looking. Very, was very like, you remember the François Hardy?
François Hardy, yes.
Yeah,
yes.
Very similar, the face.
Yes. You know, I love, one of my favorite photographs of all time is this image of François Hardy sitting on a motorcycle, which is, you know, is to me, the holy grails of sort of just.
There is another one very popular, François Hardy in the Ferrari Formula 1 at Monza boxes.
Amazing.
Ever someplace, I don't know where.
So tell us a little bit about Leanne's racing history. I find it kind of entertaining because in your book you mentioned that she was noticed by someone called Rob Slotmaker, a well-known driver in touring races and the owner of a driving school.
And at the beginning, I didn't know about Leanne Engelmann. The collector introduced me to this driver. After that, Cesare Maria Manucci wrote a good article on a good story about the driver.
Yeah. I like the fact that her driving teacher, Rob, he noticed her when she was like sitting at a bus to go to a race.
Yeah.
I like the image. She was just driving by, and he's probably looking, and he's like, "Oh my God, this woman is just so beautiful looking." And he said, "Excuse me, may I ask you what you're going to do?" And she said, "Oh, I'm going to go to a race." And he said, "Well, it just so happens that I own a driving school. Would you like to learn how to be a race car driver?" You know,
yeah,
fantastic.
Right.
Now, Auro, let me ask you about the watch she's wearing. It's called the Tissot Sea Star. And it looks like a regatta chronograph, actually, right?
Yeah,
it's got
in the counter on the right side there is the first 5 minutes starting, and in the period between 67 and 74, many company approached the yachting tool watches. Heuer, Rolex with the prototype of a Yachtmaster, other company.
Amazing. I love that. I love it on the cuff / bund style bracelet. She's got amazing style. Great, you know, and it's
also
so
the watch is very interesting because you see it's a monocoque case, the 2-piece case, and well done. There's a good movement also because Tissot was owned by Omega, and they use the same Lemania movement.
Yeah, that's cool. The 1281. That's you know, it's cool also this case because in some ways it's reminiscent of the barrel-shaped cases that we would see emerging from brands like Zenith and so on.
Yeah.
Really cool. Okay, let's go from here to an interesting guy who raced with the Richard Petty team, and he drove one of my favorite cars, which is the Plymouth Superbird, and he wore one of my favorite watches, which is the 6239 Paul Newman, and that gentleman, his name is Pete Hamilton.
Yeah. We found the photos. After the photo, I tried to find the very similar watch depicting the photo. It's 6239 with the 2-color Paul Newman dial. And also we tried to find the very famous Plymouth car, and it also was a character in the comics movie.
It's cool also because I guess in the context of this era, this is before the Paul Newman Daytona is known as the Paul Newman Daytona, right? This is just known as an exotic dial Rolex Daytona, 6239, as we mentioned before, using the famous Valjoux 72 manual Y movement. And as I recall, Auro, but maybe you can tell me, these dials were quite unsuccessful when they were launched. Is that correct?
Yeah, it was not very successful. It was too much Art Deco design, and for Rolex was very hard to sell this kind of watches, and many owners they purchase the watches, they change the dial to regular one.
And this car, the Plymouth Superbird, is one of my favorite cars as well. I grew up in the United States, and so I guess
it's very iconic with this kind of wing on the back. It's a nice car.
It's super cool. And I love the fact that you put also the animation of the car as well. Yeah. I think it's from the movie Cars, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, right. The Cars movie.
Really cool. Okay, let's go from there to Don Yenko.
Don Yenko.
So I don't know, like my dream car is a Yenko car. It would either be one of the Camaros that he did from the late 60s with the 427 Corvette motor he put in it, or I guess in 1970 he made the Nova, the Yenko Deuce. But here you have, okay, so here, oh wow, he's got a Carrera as well. So tell us a little bit about
Don Yenko was like Carroll Shelby for Ford, and Don Yenko for Corvette and other cars. They make a great muscle car, and was very popular in the 70s. And they ordered to hire few Chrono Carrera with the Sunray logo on the dial. Sunray was the petrol company sponsoring the Yenko cars during Daytona and during Sebring.
Super cool.
His cars won the Class GT in Daytona. There is the photos of the three cars on the line.
So that they cross the finish line, like, oh, okay, very nice. It's a bit like Shelby in the GT40s in 1967.
Yeah, also very similar to the three Ferrari P3, P4 in Daytona.
Very cool, very cool. We've got a great project working with Tag Heuer. So we are going to be announcing tomorrow that we're going to be doing a charity auction to benefit the World Health Organization, the Corona or the COVID Solidarity Response Fund. So what's good about this is it's trying to direct funds to whichever country is most in need.
And what kind of watch did you choose for?
So it's called the oddball auction because it's only watches that are weird or strange or unique. Yeah. So a lot of brands are giving us their prototypes. Panerai is giving us this really cool prototype of a Carbotech watch with the blue indexes. George Kern is giving us his personal watch. So his Pan Am Navitimer that he wears on his Air Racer bracelet that he's worn at every sort of global presentation. But Tag Heuer has come up with the coolest idea.
Good.
So Tag Heuer has said, listen, and I have to say it's also being kind of led by this extraordinary woman, Catherine Erbell, who is the heritage director there and is now working also somewhat in product. And communication and everything. So she said, let's do like a Singer Porsche. And she said, let's take some modern elements and let's take some vintage elements and create something really cool. So for example, maybe we could do like a Carrera case, a modern Carrera case, maybe even in a modern material, like titanium, for example. And then to take a vintage movement, like that Valjoux caliber that we were looking at before, and to create something unique. And then the person that wins this, they can have the possibility to design the dial themselves,
Good.
Cool idea, right?
Yeah, great. Excellent.
Awesome. Okay, so anyway, guys, we will, by the time you have, by the time you watch this video this coming Friday, and incidentally, you can also purchase Auro's book through our website, Time to Race, about the incredible relationship between race car drivers and their watches, and which is the most incredibly researched and meticulously researched and photographed book, which is typical of everything that Auro, I'm sorry, I should be calling you by your nom de plume, John Goldberger does. But yeah, so that's you'll have heard of the auction by then. So let's go from here to probably one of the most famous F1 pilots of all time, James Hunt, who is kind of this playboy and racing genius. And I think everyone remembers him from this film that we saw a few years ago. Tell us a little bit about James Hunt.
Okay, when I was young, I remember I was in 76, I was 8 years old. He was my idol because he was a great driver, blonde, great playboy, and especially in that period, I loved the Formula One. And we found many photos of James Hunt with watches, few with the Heuer, few with the Seiko, but I choose this Dejas because I found great photos after his victory at Boxing Glen with the penthouse girl, and it's great photo in black and white. And in this photo, there is all the character of James Hunt: smoking, beer, girls.
Fabulous. Smoking, beer, nice watch, and a penthouse playmate. A penthouse pet, I believe.
You remember this artist was very popular. He made the Messalina characters in the Bob Guccione Caligula movie.
Yes, exactly. Bob Guccione, yeah, of course.
Yeah.
It's incredible. Yeah, when I look at this, it really makes me think I was born in the wrong era. I would have loved to have had my younger years in the 70s. But anyway, I'm here now in the middle of 2020 when we're facing the coronavirus.
And also on the right side, there is a special edition manufactured by Tag Heuer, in joint with the son of James Hunt. Was a chronograph manufactured in a few examples, and they were sold at Goodwood Festival auction.
Auro, for you, which are the brands that are the most important related to auto racing? You know, which are the brands that have the most interesting history related to auto racing for you?
Sure, the Heuer.
Heuer.
Yeah, because between 65 and 75, they manufacture watches, chronograph, especially focus on auto racing.
Yeah.
Also, the link of Jack Heuer with the old drivers, team manager, was very strong. Right now, I'm working on the same book, Part 2. We found already 40 characters. And last week, I went to make, with Cesar Maria, an interview to Forghieri, the chief of the engineering in Ferrari. We took photos of his gold Tag Heuer Carrera with the early version with the black dial, with the engraving back with the congratulation by Jack Heuer. The same watch of Ronnie Peterson in the book.
Exactly. These watches were given exclusively to race car drivers, right?
Yeah, I found the Mike Haywood watch in the book, the Ronnie Peterson from the Tag Heuer Museum, and it's enough. Now, we found many other drivers of this kind of watch.
And I love the shape of the case of this watch as well, you know, because it's got this kind of semi-cushion shape to it. It's so cool.
With the watch is great movement inside. It was the first automatic chronograph, and it was very popular in the beginning of 70s.
With the caliber 11, amazing. I think you've just given us an idea in terms of also what we can discuss with Tag Heuer, because this case shape, they haven't done so many watches in this. I know they did a limited edition for Sweden, I think a couple of years ago in steel. And that, of course, the gold watches to me are some of the most beautiful Carreras ever made. It's hard to find them on the original bracelet as well, because those bracelets are very...
the gold bracelet is very rare to find them. I think it was a Milanese mesh bracelet made by Gay Frere, and Ronnie Peterson had the original bracelet on it.
Amazing. You know, I think you were the guy that was kind of like wearing all your cool watches on Gay Frere bracelets way before everyone else became obsessed by it. And you've kind of set this kind of trend now. Like everyone now wants to wear their watches on a beads of rice bracelet or on a mesh bracelet. You know, it's cool. Because
when I found in the flea market in Switzerland or in Germany a long time ago, was a very cheap bracelet. Nobody know about the logo on the buckle with the deer with the GF initials. Right now, are very, very expensive, very rare to find the right one with the right links to fix to the watches.
I'm trying very hard, Auro. I don't.
Gay Frere was the best bracelet manufacturing company. They manufactured the Nautilus bracelet,
Yes.
the Royal Oak bracelet,
Yes.
and many other bracelets for Hoyer, for Patek Philippe, and especially for Rolex. Rolex purchased the company at the end of 80, the beginning of 90. The company was located in Geneva, and now is part of Rolex brand.
Absolutely. It's amazing how those bracelets just change the character of the watch so completely. So I bought this watch because you told me that this is one of your favorite dials. So this is the Roger Dubuis with the Breguet numerals,
No. Roger Dubuis was the first company they reintroduced in the end of 80, the right Breguet numerals, like the old one.
Yes, like the Tasti Tondi and the one caliber 130 or the reference.
Yeah,
130.
it was the perfect Breguet numerals and better than Patek made later.
I shall not comment on that, but I would love to put this watch on a beads of rice bracelet. Do you think that would be cool?
Yeah, easy to find. A nice rice bracelet. You can find it.
I'll start looking. Auro,
the movement is great. I remember the movement is Lemania inside.
The movement is a Lemania 2310. Yeah. And it's got the Geneva seal, and it's got the certificate. It's a chronometer from Besançon.
Yeah. Remember, it was also Geneva seal. Also, no?
But the only thing is it's difficult to find because it's actually quite a big watch. It's 40 mm, so the width of the lug is 21 mm. So you need quite a big bracelet for it, which is not the easiest thing to find. But
no easy.
Really? Well, Auro, if you hear it, please let me know. Okay, the last question I have for you is, you have been one of the most seminal authors and photographers of incredible books looking at the history of watches and really helping to bring vintage culture to the new world or to the modern audience. When did you start getting this passion to create these books? And how do you find the time and energy? Because I know you also have a thriving business as well.
Okay, I found the space. I found the space because with passion, easy to produce something interesting. The passion is driving force.
I've learned so much. I mean, reading even just the captions in your book, Steel Patek's, which is it's like my Bible. It's sitting here next to me, and I bring it next to my bed very often as well. It's amazing. So Auro, aka
there are a few mistakes inside. There are a few mistakes, but
yeah, come on, Auro. I'm fairly certain that you have forgotten more about watches than I will ever know in my life. Well, thank you so much for joining us. It's been an absolute
pleasure. Ray. When do you come back to Europe?
As soon as they allow travel again, so they're going to lift our lockdown in the beginning of June. It would be nice to come and see people again. I'll probably come for Geneva Watch Days in August as well, and then PT Uomo now is in September. So so I'm looking forward to traveling again. I'm looking forward to seeing great friends like you again, Auro.
Okay, great. We stay in touch.
Thank you, sir. Have a wonderful day. Ciao.
Ciao.